A pleasure to be here with Sumantra Bose. Sir, welcome to the Kolkata Literature Festival. Your session is called The Idea of India. So what are you expecting from this conversation? What sort of an angle or approach are you going to take for this particular session?
I think that there's been a lot of oversimplification of this concept of the idea of India. There obviously cannot be a singular idea of India. We always have to speak of ideas of India in the plural. In our modern history, during our freedom struggle, there were multiple ideas of India that existed, side by side. And in such a huge and diverse country, it's natural for there to be different ideas of India. So it's a fallacy which has been propagated in the last 20 years or so, that there is a singular idea of India. There cannot be any one idea of India. So I hope our panel will go into clarifying this oversimplification, in fact, this fallacy, and we will range over the ideas in the plural of India that have animated us in the past and continue to be the source of debate today.
Speaking of oversimplification, one binary when it comes to the ideas of India is that we are fast losing the Nehruvian idea of India, in the sense that India used to be a secular, tolerant, unity and diversity kind of a country, versus a far more homogenized idea of what India stands for, perhaps taking from the Hindu right or the Hindutva idea of India. So would you say that it's fair to contrast these two ideas as the leading schools of thought in today's India?
I don't think it is entirely adequate, but it's a part of the debate, not the whole debate. What is the quote-unquote Nehruvian idea of India? Well, I suppose it signifies a certain commitment to democratic institutions, to cultural and social pluralism, and so on. So that is certainly a worthwhile idea of India. However, the Savarkar-Golwalkar view of India is also an idea of India. Whether one agrees with it or not, it is very, that's why I said that there's a plurality, there's a multiplicity of ideas of India. And the Savarkar-Golwalkar idea of India is also an idea of India, along with others. And in fact, it's not new. It's about 100 years old as we speak. It's almost exactly 100 years ago that Savarkar published his seminal work, Hindu Rashtra Darshan. And it's 85 or so years since Madhav Sadashiv Golwalkar, the second leader of the RSS, an enormously influential figure in the pantheon of Hindu nationalism, published in the late 1930s his magnum opus called We or Our Nationhood Defined. So, this other idea of India, this alternative idea of India, has been in existence for a century, and we see chronologically that it came into existence around the same time as Indian nationalism became a mass movement under Gandhi's leadership. Except that the Congress, the Indian National Congress's version, was the mainstream version of Indian nationalism and dominant, and the other idea of India, articulated by the likes of Savarkar and Golwalkar, was a fringe ideology. However, times do change, and we are now living in an era when that erstwhile fringe idea of India is trying to become hegemonic. And that, I think, is where the danger lies, because there must always be a plurality, a multiplicity of ideas of India. If there is a claim that only one idea of India is culturally authentic and therefore legitimate, if there's this drive to hegemony that we see now, that spells great danger, not just for our polity, but for our society at large.
While you say that there must be multiple ideas of India at any point in time, do you feel that there are certain fundamental values that are intrinsic to any idea? Is there an Indian ethos that should resonate no matter the idea of the country?
You're asking my opinion, so I'll give you my opinion. Yes, the short answer to your question is yes. For me, the essential attribute of India, I am deliberately essentializing India here. The essential attribute of India is our diversity, i.e., the opposite of any cultural and political notion of homogeneity. The essential attribute of India is our diversity. Therefore, for me, the essence of India lies in, if that is the essence of India, what follows is that we must have a powerful living ethic of tolerance of others, other Indians who may be different from us, of equality of all citizens and all communities. This is a non-negotiable feature of uh, of an acceptable India as I see it. So, equality of all citizens and communities as non-negotiable, and coexistence of all citizens and communities in a democratic, plural society and polity.
My final question is one of your finest books, which deals with Kashmir. In the last few 4 or 5 years, since 2019, in fact, since the revocation of 370 happened, Kashmir has been in the debate, perhaps more so internationally than domestically. But where do you see Kashmir today, as it is, fitting into the idea of India, or will it forever remain that point of tussle between India and Pakistan? Forever remain that little fragment upon which we decide whether we are a united nation or a divided nation. But in the space of what Kashmir really means for Kashmiris, or what it's supposed to mean integrally to India, will Kashmir ever get its due? Will it ever get its rightful place within the larger construct of India?
It's been exactly 3.5 years since the government of India made its big move on Jammu and Kashmir in August 2019. I have been there multiple times since then. The last time was just about 5 months ago, when I was in the Kashmir Valley and in Ladakh, in both the Kargil and Leh districts. Prior to that, post 2019, I've also been in the Jammu region, in Jammu city, in the Rajouri district, and so on. And just over a year ago, at the end of 2021, I published a book titled Kashmir at the Crossroads, Inside a 21st Century Conflict. In response to your question, the present dispensation in New Delhi claims to have solved the Kashmir question through its particular raft of policy measures. I think that claim is a fiction. Look, let me give an example. I think you're a Bengali like me. We Bengalis are largely at peace with our Indian national identity and with our homeland being part of the Indian Union, because by and large we feel respected, or at least don't feel disrespected, or at least we don't feel actively oppressed by the central government of India. Now, that is unfortunately not so in the case of the Kashmir Valley in particular. So, unless that problem of feeling disrespected and of being actively oppressed is mended, I don't see any lasting solution to the problem. There is a media blackout on Kashmir in India. There are the basic rights of freedom of speech, assembly, expression, that we used to take for granted, more or less, do not exist since August 2019 in Jammu and Kashmir. So, all of this needs to be attended to. The government of India has been on a completely misplaced path, and one needs to, come back to an approach which respects people as human beings, secondly, as citizens of the country, and third, as distinctive cultural communities with certain aspirations.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, sir. Have a great time at KLF.